Que soy un adicto, que soy un violento, que soy un matón. Que tengo una vieja que deja que tenga otra.
Welcome to the Average Spearo. Today we're going to talk about blue water gun setups and my opinion, on how I like my blue water setup. I know there's a lot of questions out there about blue water setups and what's best to use and what not to use. This is what I use, and this is what I found works best for me. You could use something else, but a lot of people ask how it works. You shoot a big fish and how that whole process works. And today we're going to explain that. So, very first thing is we got our gun. And you can see by the size of the gun, they're rather large. You need a large gun for a large fish. The range on this gun is a good shooting range is probably max is between 15 and 17 feet, I would say. So you got to get close to the fish. You're not shooting for 30, 40 feet. It's fairly close range stuff. This particular gun uses 3 5/8 bands. I order all my guns with 5/16 shafts, and the reason for that being is these tips are expensive. They're over $100 a piece now. For me here in Mexico, if I order them in the U.S., then it costs me $37 to have it shipped here. So they're expensive, and I like to be able to interchange them onto all my guns. So I use a 5/16 shaft. You can get 11/32 shaft, neck down to a 5/16. I just really like the 5/16 shaft. So going to the tip, since we're there, the tip is what's called a slip tip. So when you install it on the gun, it rides like that, and it's just that. It's just a slip. What holds it in place is when you have the gun loaded, you put this tagline here in between the bands when it's loaded, and they hold the tip in place. And then when the gun is shot, the water pressure holds it in place. So what happens is when this goes through the fish, on the other side of the fish, this tip comes off and toggles, and it holds the fish between this tip and the shaft. It does a couple things. It keeps the shaft from creating too much drag on a soft fish like a wahoo, and it cuts down on tear outs. A wahoo is a fairly soft fish, and they can tear out. That's why I don't like to use a flopper shaft. And it helps prevent the shaft from being bent. They still can be bent. These are strong, big fish, but it greatly reduces the shaft being bent. So the next question is, so once you shoot the fish and the fish is shot, what happens? So
come and take a ride, we can kick it. Roll another blunt, catch this vibe, can you feel it? Take another puff till you high is the ceiling. If you feeling like I do right now, come and get it. Look, see, I was taught that the business is never personal. You take a hit of this shit and you getting vertigo. I got the world in my palms, I don't know where to go. Caught up in this fast lifestyle, so I burn it slow. I swear that this is all a part of God's plan. I'm running through the light when it's red like I'm Roxanne. Somewhere on vacation with my lady in the hot sand. Y'all are just pretending you a star and this ain't rock band. I'm getting calls from these numbers I don't recognize. Y'all investing in jewelry, I invest in pride. I keep running up these checks like I exercise. If beef is on the menu, I suggested.
So this is your shooting line. I like 2 wraps. 2 wraps means you come from the shaft where it ties into the shaft. You can see how it on the shaft here. So it comes down, goes around this catch mechanism, and then I like it twice. So that's what a double wrap is. And the shooting line is connected. The way we do it, we don't use reels in blue water. We use float lines. I got all kinds of different float lines out to show you guys. But this is my favorite float line. It's got a foam core. It's relatively inexpensive. This is $40 for 50 feet. And then I run a 6-foot bungee, which helps reduce the pressure that the buoy applies to the fish. And we'll get into that. But basically, the float line just clips in right here. And that's what is with the fish. So when I shoot a fish, I'm left with just the gun, the shaft, the shooting line, everything's away from me. And I like that better because it's less to get tangled in your fins and your weight belt and just on you in general. You know, my experience with a reel is you have 300 feet of line, and there's 300 feet of line in the ocean, and if you're spear fishing with other people, that can get dangerous in a hurry. That's a lot of line in the water. I run a 50-foot float line with a 6-foot bungee, so there's 56 feet of, well, plus 18 feet of shooting line. So there's almost 100 foot of line in the water already. And to add another 200 feet of line, it could get dangerous. But anyways, so when you shoot the fish, everything's gone. What controls the fish is a buoy. If you watched the last video, I talked about how I lost my first fish because the buoy was too big. Well, here's the buoy. This is a strong buoy. It's meant for like tuna, something that the meat's dense and holds really well. Oh, this buoy is, in my opinion, much too large for wahoo. It puts a lot of pressure on them. This is the style of buoy I prefer now. And you're probably going, well, that's a lot bigger than the other one. Well, this one has a Schrader valve, and you blow this one up with an air compressor, and max pressure on it is 1.5 bar, which is I believe it's like 25 psi. So this has a lot of pulling power. It's simple. There's a valve right here. You blow it up, and that's all the pressure it has. It's what you put in it with your mouth. So it doesn't have as much pull on the fish. I like this buoy a lot because it has handle. I like to hold on to the fish. It gives me something to hold on to the fish. If it's a good shot, I'll actually ride, the buoy. I'll have the fish drag me as well. And you go, wow, that's a lot of pressure if you're hanging on to it. Yeah, it is. And I only do that in situations where I know I have a good holding shot. That's typically in front of the pec fin. Or if I seen that it really went through the middle of the fish and I know it's not going to tear out, then I'll hold on and ride the buoy. And then the other buoy that we have here is a very small buoy, and this one really doesn't put any pressure on the fish. It puts minimal pressure on the fish. It's a great buoy for that, but the downside is when this buoy's gone, you're swimming a long ways, or you're gonna have to get in the boat and chase this buoy. The fish drag these things a long ways. That fish that I showed a picture of my friend, the one that I missed and my friend got, We looked for that thing, that buoy. He uses a buoy similar to this, and it drug it over a mile. And it went towards the beach. It went south towards the beach, and we found it a mile away to the north. So these buoys really go for a long time. Another drawback of this buoy is that this is it. This is what you get. If you're traveling, this is what you have to account for. Whereas with this buoy, if you're traveling, you let the air out, you let the air out, and it gets small quickly. So, in my opinion, these are the best buoys. They pack small. You can adjust how much pressure is on the fish. You have a handle to control the fish. And just in my opinion, that's the best buoy, but that's my opinion. Other float line styles we have here, we have a nylon. These are cheap. I just personally don't like them. I don't know why, but they're inexpensive. I shouldn't say cheap. They're inexpensive. They work. They work great. If you're on a budget, a strict budget, you don't need to spend the money of these expensive ones. And here's an expensive float line. It's a nice float line. It's got an integrated bungee into the float line, and this float line is, this float line here's without the bungee. This float line, you can make it for probably $20. The orange one is $40 without the bungee, and this one is this one's 75 feet with a 10-foot bungee, and I believe I paid $125 for this float line. It's a beautiful float line. Again, it's that extra length in the water. I don't want all that line in the water. The more line you have in the water, the more risk there is, in my opinion. These fish are strong and they can wrap you up fast, especially shooting like a mahi-mahi, dorado. Those fish will wrap you up fast. They don't just swim away from you. They swim in circles around you. So you're having to do a lot of line management with those fish. Wahoo, another thing is thinking, the more line you have, the more opportunity there is for it to get tangled on the anchor line, on the boat, on other people, on anything that could be in the water. And as soon as you get a fish tangled, the chances of you losing that fish double, and that's not good. We're out there for sport, but we're also spearfishing is the most sustainable way of fishing. There is no bycatch with spearfishing. You only shoot what you intend to shoot, and you eat it. So spearfishing is the most sustainable way to fish. But anyways, those are my blue water setups. If you guys want to know more, feel free to leave a message or comment, and I appreciate you watching. Thanks a lot.